Welcome to the latest episode of First Word in Sport, Monday morning. It's coming home, James. It's coming home. I don't know if you had any more sleep than I've had when we are recording this, but it's been a long evening.
Hey, Jude. Yes, somehow England have won a proper game of football under Thomas Tuchel, winning overnight. Yeah, when it was announced that the game had been moved to 2:00 UK time, it was like, that's another 2 hours of waiting. Talking of that, the betting was wild on Betfair, by the way, regarding that market for when the game's going to be, like, just before 12 o'clock. It suddenly went from 5-1 into 1.1 it was going to be on. And then about a minute later, it's like, obviously, game moved to 2:00. Yeah, heck of a performance, heck of a win. And moving on to quarterfinals against Norway on Saturday night.
It's tough to know where to start, really. We were chatting with John before the match, and we speculated that a win here would arguably be England's greatest tournament performance since obviously 66. And I think you'd have to say it, it probably is, to go to Mexico, go to Azteca and beat that team down to 10 men for a huge part of the game. A few, not marginal decisions went against England and job done.
I definitely think it was England's best win. Best performance, arguably as well. There's had some good performances and gone out. I think the Argentina game in France 98. But if you look at it, last knockout was 1986 Paraguay, 1990 Belgium and Cameroon, 2002 Denmark, 2006 Ecuador, 2018 Colombia and Sweden, and 2022 Senegal. Mexico away in Mexico City under that atmosphere, those conditions, it's definitely the best win out of that. Unbelievable performance. And the big players stood up, really did stood up. Jude Bellingham put an all-time great performance. Forget about his running and his ability. Big balls from him yesterday. Absolutely. I play for Real Madrid. This is who I am. I am a superstar. He was outrageous. Unbelievable performance.
Well, I think that's the thing, right? So England do have, some genuinely world-class players, and we just haven't seen it from Bellingham for a little while. But you don't go to Real Madrid, do what he did there in his first season as a young kid, and not know that he's ready for the big time. And he is ready for the big time. And you know what? He did turn up. And if he continues to turn up, I mean, who knows what England can do, because he is that good. And that's what England need. You need your big players to turn up in the big games. And, it's what's happened in the last two games. Kane the game before, and then obviously Bellingham last night.
That's the best England performance in a long time. Arguably the best performance of anyone in this year's World Cup by Bellingham overnight. It was, if you haven't watched it, it's the highlights. I watched the game briefly this morning at breakfast. Don't do it justice how good that performance was. He was just sensational. He could beat players at will, drift past them, drop the shoulder, keep the ball, run all day long, not nervous, enjoy the atmosphere, enjoy the occasion. And knowing full well, actually, that if he got booked, he would have missed the quarterfinal if they went through as well, because he got booked in a previous game against Congo. So he didn't do anything stupid, didn't give that referee, who will come on to, a chance to book him or do anything stupid, didn't let him get round up by the defensive midfielder who was trying to hack him all game as well. To be fair to that lad, he had a decent game. Yeah, it was just a generational performance.
I think what doesn't really do justice. So I watched the highlights again with the kids this morning. And it's interesting because it didn't do justice to the atmosphere, I don't think, in terms of just how hostile it was. And also it just clearly doesn't do justice to how nerve-wracking those last, 30, 40 minutes were in terms of desperately hanging on. And what the other thing that stood out actually was just how few good chances Mexico created in that last 20, 30 minutes. There wasn't that many, there was a shot which went wrong side of the post, but there really wasn't that many great chances. And I remember saying to you and John, actually, as the game was going on, when teams have a low block like England had, you don't often see a team like England have a low block. They can be incredibly difficult to break down. So it'd be a bit similar to, let's say, an Arsenal went super, super defensive. They're incredibly difficult to break down because they're so well organised. And obviously, Byrne came into that defence, and they were. I think that's the difference with Tuchel and Southgate as well. Is I have a lot more confidence in the decisions that Tuchel makes, particularly in game, than I do that someone like a Southgate made. The only thing I think he could have done yesterday was, I think Kane should have come off earlier. I think once you're down to 10 men, I think Kane's a bit of a non-entity because he doesn't have the pace up front to, just keep them honest defensively. But you just have to, Tuchel just gives the impression of being a winner.
I'm sceptical of Tuchel, really. But last night he showed at the second hydration break, or hydration break in the second half, he took Nick O'Reilly off, who just got a booking could have got sent off actually for an elbow. Other referees, I'm surprised that referee didn't actually look at it or get told to look at it. And he took off Elliot Anderson and he just went, you know what, we're going to stand on the penalty area and you're going to come and break us down. And as he said, with that low block, you're either going to do two things. It's either going to be a worldie from 35 yards out that goes in the top corner, or it's deflected or something like that, or it's a mistake from the defenders. Because it's very hard to break down essentially 5 defenders on the penalty area and then 3 midfielders or 4 midfielders kind of thing. And they just whacked it long. And yeah, Pickford really didn't have much to do in the last 15, 20 minutes kind of thing. Considering what happened before the game when it was 11 versus 11, when Pickford had to make 2 or 3 decent saves. Like the first one against Jimenez in the first half at 0-0 is a good save. Like, it's not unbelievable save. You'd expect him to save it.
That was a good save. I mean, you obviously got the one in the top corner. That was a massive camera save. That was the most Pickford save ever. But that first save was just massively important as well. So it wasn't just the fact that it was a good save. It was a really good header from Jimenez, but the timing of it mattered as well. If we'd gone down 1-0 there, because England didn't really. So we've had some interesting games recently. So, I mean, we'll come on to the Brazil game again a bit later, but England were quite happy, not necessarily to sit back, but Mexico had a lot of the possession and England were quite happy to sit back and then went bang, bang, those 2 goals in 2 minutes, whatever. And it is interesting to see how different teams are approaching this World Cup in terms of how aggressive they are or not.
Yeah, you changed the way we played, didn't we? For 20, 25 minutes, we went there and we didn't really do anything going forward at all.
Just kept the ball. Just kept the ball.
Kept the ball, whacked it long, like Wimbledon, crazy gang style kind of thing. And I was applauding it. It was like, absolutely, get the ball away from our penalty area. Don't give them any sort of ammunition to get the crowd up. Don't give a soft free kick away or dodgy throw in or whatever like that. And then get to the hydration break, and Pickford made that save. And then suddenly in hydration break, there was obviously a flick switched, and Tuchel went, right, now this is our time. Get on the ball and let's start attacking. And Saka did nothing all game. He looks like he needs 6 months off, the poor lad, because he looks a shadow of the player he can be, and we know he can be a top-class player. And yeah, great play from Rice. And then he beats his man, stands his man up, dinks it to middle of the goal. Kane makes a near post. Bellingham sees Kane goes near post. Bellingham follows him behind, and there's your goal kind of thing. It's a brilliantly worked goal, but that's the only thing Saka did all game kind of thing. On the front foot, anyway.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting.
He doesn't look fit.
I mean, it was a brilliant moment for the goal. He doesn't look anywhere near fit. And I've said before, I think we keep talking about it being an ongoing, issue. It's not something where you have an injury and then you're fit again. He's dealing with an injury, and you do have to wonder at what point he should have ever been picked in the first place. But he did contribute yesterday. I think just touching on what you said a minute ago, actually, was, obviously you didn't want to give Tuchel too much credit, but I think what you laid out there in terms of England having a pretty definitive game plan for that first quarter, should we call it? Um, and then changing things up, it would suggest that this team has a little bit more nous about them than maybe previously, and that's what I mean. More, I think Tuchel's made some horrible decisions in terms of squad selection, but in running and in during the match, I think he's very competent.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm just saying with Tuchel, you see him, and I look at his club record and go, yeah, he's great at one-off games kind of thing, but you take away that Champions League win for Chelsea against Man City. I know you can't really take away, but if Pep Guardiola hadn't messed around with his starting 11 like he did, then everyone would have got, whatever. But last night, he did it perfectly. And even at the start of the second half, we came out and we started after the disappointment of conceding that goal and then somehow getting to half time without conceding a game because we were under all sorts of pressure, like really all sorts of pressure. Pickford comes out, dominates the area, then it goes to a corner and Bellingham kind of switches off, but somehow gets back in. But even the commentator on BBC commentators, like, that's a great goal too. Like, then he realised that Pickford put it over, knocked it out for a corner. Yeah, just to get to half time, 2-1 up was massive for England. That could have been not a disaster because you're still 2-2 kind of thing. But when you've played well, I know you've given up a couple of chances, but that's what you're going to expect at this level kind of thing. You're going to give up chances. You just are. And yeah, fair play to Bellingham for that.
I do need to mention
Tackle.
their goal, by the way. It was really poor from Konza. I've said before, I'm not a mass. I see him week in, week out. I'm yet to be convinced he's top class. I hate to think how many times I've seen him. I've literally seen him play hundreds of times, and you have to do more. You can't just do a little flick like that straight back in. To the middle of the penalty box like that. It's you have to do more as a defender, and I think that's one of the problems England have at times is they haven't done more. That centre half pairing hasn't been brilliant for England. I'm not sure Stones is the answer either, but I don't know quite what the answer is. What what did you make
It's
of
never a penalty. It's never a free kick, by the way.
for the first?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was very
And
very soft.
And you notice how we saw no replay either of the free kick until BBC showed it at half time here in the UK. So never a free kick. Yeah, got to do better. You can't just put the ball back in a place where it's danger area. Chap finishes it really well, to be fair to him. But yeah, Konza got bullied all day long by Raul Jimenez in that game until he moved out to right back. But
Well,
who knew? Yeah,
I've
just got
I've said
bullied.
to you before is that I said to you when it happened, I saw Jimenez up against Villa at Craven Cottage, maybe a couple of months ago, and it was no different then. Jimenez is a real handful. I don't think you quite realise just how big he is. He's, I'm still surprised there wasn't a Premier League team willing to take a chance on him. Because obviously he's leaving Fulham, but he's still very, very capable. Let's touch on a couple of the bigger decisions because I think they are a little bit contentious. So obviously we've got the sending off of Quansah, and I do think I have quite a lot of sympathy for him because he has gone for the tackle, right, and his foot has obviously bounced off the top of the ball, and in a game where he's not, he's obviously not gone to catch the player at that height. Is nowhere near that height, and obviously because he's hit the ball, it's bounced up, and he's obviously caught the player. Once you catch the player like that, obviously you're going to be in a whole world of trouble. And I know the law doesn't make any mitigation for that, and we saw, was it Curtis Jones had something similar. I just think it's really unfortunate. I'm not saying it's a wrong decision per se. I just think it's a very unfortunate thing, and actually sometimes a little bit more common sense in a situation like that where it's not intended might make more sense.
Get both sides of the argument. It's a red card in the laws of the game. Now, we can debate all day long if the laws are incorrect kind of thing. They're always going to give that as a red card. It's endangering the opposition player. It's high on the boot. Yeah, he does go, his foot goes up because it's a strong tackle. He never went to go and injure the player, tried to. He went in because it was a sliding tackle and it was a hard tackle. He got the ball and he wanted to put the old saying, a reducer on the player that they used to do in the 80s and the early 90s kind of thing. Back in the day, that would have been fine. It would have been, referee didn't give it in real time, obviously, so you can argue that point as well. I just think it's a red card. He was actually playing quite well, Joe Concha, as well. He had a decent game kind of thing. It's an easy decision for VAR. You
I
can't,
wasn't. Yeah,
I
no,
don't
it
think you can take
wasn't.
the emotion out of it. You can't take the emotion out of it and say it's not a little bit of common sense because the laws are quite clearly state that
No,
anything like that.
it's more a question of the law itself. So,
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
know, in terms of obviously that decision, you know, that's fine. You know, in terms of the way the law is phrased, but I do think it's something they not necessarily have to think about, but it's certainly make more sense to actually, you know, if you do catch the top of the ball and you know it's completely changed the trajectory of which you're tackling. Um, because it should always be about you know, things like you know nasty red card tackles. A lot of it should be about intent, you know, and there isn't the intent there to you know injure the player or anything like that. There, I don't think.
Sure. One last thing that Starmer could do before he resigns as UK Prime Minister, should he ring up FIFA and Infantino and say that shouldn't be a red card? Because
He,
if this USA striker gets away with it and looking like he can play tonight or tomorrow morning, then then Kwanzaa should be able to play.
the difference is no one knows who Starmer is.
Very true.
And then obviously the other decision is the penalty against Harry Kane. Now I know John has a massive opinion on these ones. He's very vocal to me about these all the time, and I do think so from his point of view, it shouldn't be a penalty. If anything, it should be a free kick the other way. Is his view. You know, when you see the slow mo, you understand why it's given. But I also actually understand. So the point John makes is that at the end of the day, Kane has position on the Mexican player. You know, he's playing the ball, and essentially the Mexican player has just thrust his foot between him and the ball. You know, he's not necessarily in control of the ball or anything like that. And you know, it does make you wonder sometimes. You know, what is Kane supposed to do in that situation? You know, he's not going to not kick the ball or try and get rid of the ball. I mean, I genuinely, what is Kane supposed to do in that situation?
Like the Modric one, isn't it? Early in the
Yeah,
tournament games.
but just because that was given doesn't
Doesn't
mean
mean
it's
this
the
one.
right decision. And you know, I've seen it a lot in the last few hours of people saying, "Well, that was obviously the right decision because the Modric one got given," but I'm not sure I'm not sure that they're necessarily the right decisions.
I get John's point, and like he's actually just put his foot there. So he's hoping that Kane kicks it and gets a penalty, which has happened. He's not actually trying to play the ball really as per se. He's actually just putting his body or part of his body there, hoping that Kane is in this instance kicks him and he rolls over like a sack of potatoes kind of thing, as they do. Again, it's the right decision, unfortunately. It is the right
Well, no,
decision.
but is it the right? I mean, but this is it. Is it the
In the
right?
laws, can you change the law though? But then you're asking for a grey area, aren't you? Like, what's the intent? What's not the intent? And that's why I think the law's there, isn't it? If you foul a player, whether it's like, I suppose it's like dangling your leg and you're going into a goalkeeper kind of thing. You're leaving your leg there, and the keeper takes you out. Like, what's the keeper supposed to do? What was that thing in the not the Harry Kane one earlier in this against Congo, but in the Premier League, wasn't there one during the season where a player left his foot in kind of thing? It was like, what's the keeper supposed to do kind of
Was
thing?
that not the Haaland Allison one?
The Haaland Allison one, yeah, at Anfield, yeah.
You know,
Like
there's nothing Allison can like.
similar thing because
Okay,
Haaland's got his
right,
body in the way.
we'll come back to the same point we always make with this as well, right? That is worth zero point 0.8 goals,
Yeah,
right?
which is
Which is
doesn't
just
fit the crime
absolute
at all.
nonsense. You know, if you ever want to see a reason why it shouldn't be a penalty and why actually, you know, you should be looking for reasons not to give penalties. You know, they're so keen to look for reasons to give penalties when, given the value of penalties, they should be looking not to give penalties, if anything. and you see that sort of stuff. I've huge sympathy actually for both players in those situations. And I don't know. Anyway, it's England still managed, despite those decisions, to get the result. And obviously, they're going to be playing Norway on Saturday evening. The good
Can we
news,
just briefly talk about Kane's penalty there? His to make it 3-1.
what
That's had
actually
to take a penalty.
hitting a ball properly, yeah.
Just put your laces straight through it. No keeper's getting anywhere near it. He went early to keeper, and he's miles away from it. Just this stutter business, Bruno Guimaraes, whoever you want to talk about. I mean, Raul Jimenez got a bit lucky, by the way. Could have Pickford goes, I know he didn't keep a bit of a whatever, but Kane, that's what you do. Head down, whack it. You're getting nowhere near it. It was a brilliant penalty. Just a couple of things. Jed Spence came on, played really well, I thought. He played as a left wing back. He came on. As soon as the player got the ball, he was out there stopping the crosses. He was very good. Dan Burn had a couple of dodgy moments to start the game, but once he got into that, and 11 minutes came from where? Like, where is he getting 11 minutes from? He got 3 minutes for the hydration breaks. He's made 8 minutes. There wasn't an injury. And there was a couple of VAR checks, but they weren't that long for both
James,
penalties.
that's why it's so hard to go to Azteca and get a win.
It was remarkable where the 11 minutes came from. It was just odd. And then a couple other points. Harry Kane's interview with BBC.
Honestly, she should have been that off long before she did. He obviously couldn't speak. It was, I just felt sorry for him. He was even squeakier than normal.
Yeah, and not my favourite player, but Jordan Henderson looked like he's badly broken his wrist. If anyone
Yeah.
hasn't seen it, it looks an horrendous fall, jumping over the advertising hoardings back onto the pitch after England celebrating with the fans, and he just takes a tumble and obviously lands on his wrist, arm, puts his whole body weight through it, and looks like he stayed in Mexico in hospital and broken wrist, broken arm, whatever it is. Yeah, looks
I
that's
think
him done for the World Cup, imagine.
I think the good news for England, it was only the one player who should never have been anywhere near the squad in the first place.
Yeah, he's played, 6 minutes a game against Panama or something, hasn't he? So, but yeah, you've got to feel for the guy. It's not a pleasant, you can watch it if you want to, but yeah, it's a terrible tumble. Just loses his balance, doesn't he, really? But yeah. But go back, that's a heck of a performance by England, by the way. Under that pressure, outrageous.
So Saturday evening, obviously, play Norway, and I know, James, I'm very, amused to see how you're going to navigate the situation with your wife, given that you're meant to have dinner booked with friends for Saturday evening. Yes, good luck.
Plans have been cancelled, put it that way, in the household this morning. Yeah.
Norway. So again, beat Brazil yesterday. I mean, Brazil will obviously be kicking themselves in terms of the missed penalty. Bruno, terrible penalty. And it was a hugely important moment, obviously, in that game as well. But I think the bigger point I want to make about that game was that just how, I mean, I said in the podcast before the tournament that I thought Brazil, not good. And they let Norway, they were having like 26% possession against Norway. I mean, some of those previous generations of yellow-shirted superstars must be just turning in their graves. Honestly, seeing a Brazilian team have like 26% possession at various points in that game against a pretty average Norway team.
Bang average Norway team, bar one decent player in Odegaard and a superstar in Haaland. Some of those players watching, like Ronaldinho, Roberto Carlos, whoever was at the game yesterday, must have been going, what on earth have we come to? I think you were kind, Luke, saying they're a bad Brazil team. You said on a podcast before the World Cup, the worst Brazil team of our lifetime. I'd even go back, it is the worst Brazil team ever. It's generally a disgraceful Brazil team. That performance yesterday was bang average. I know they missed the penalty kind of thing, but they got lucky before that from the offside when Norway put the ball in the back of the net, and he was offside. Commentators still need to realise it's not tight, it's offside because
Yeah.
it's semi-automated offside. We don't need to go to VAR because
It was
it's already been decided.
it was miles offside
Yeah.
by current, measures.
But Brazil didn't do anything all game. They did absolutely nothing all game. Do you actually think it's a penalty, by the way?
I depends on what angles you look at, because there is an angle where it looks like he got a toe to it. Difficult. I normally have an opinion on these things. I would, if forced, I'd probably say it wasn't a penalty. So I think he did get a touch on it. But I mean, what do you think?
I think he gets the ball, but I'm a newspaper as a defender, so I'm probably on the defender's side. I can see why it's been given, but I'd argue that it wasn't. I think he gets the ball, probably gets a man a little bit first, kind of thing. But it's very tight, and it was given pretty quickly as well.
Well, I don't know if they looked at all the angles, but I think the thing about that Brazil team, when you watch it, you know, is one thing having a lot of very unlikable type players who are like genuinely amazing players, but that Brazilian team is full of absolute show ponies. Whether it be Cunha's, whether it be Paquetas, whether it be I quite like Bruno, but Vinicius, incredible talent, but he's so far away from being a team player or the type of player that you necessarily want. I mean, you could keep going on. Casemiro. I mean, there's so many players in that Brazilian lineup which I don't know, just a complete bunch of show ponies. And Paqueta. I mean, as transpired, they were really, really poor.
Got two lads from Arsenal, haven't they? Gabriel Martinelli. Don't miss the return. Don't miss the trip to Anfield next season because we've got a little bit of things to speak to you about. Connor Bradley and Gabriel. He's not that good, lad. I don't care. Haaland bullied him again. He absolutely made him look stupid, and he can't defend against Haaland. I know Haaland's a generational striker, one of the best to ever done it, kind of thing. But what's he doing for the first goal, by the way? He gives Haaland the run. He gives him 4 or 5 yards of space. And he's the only person in the box. What's he doing? He's like scared of him, completely scared of him. And even the second goal, him and Marquinhos don't get anywhere near him. Like, he's on the edge of the box. Heck of a good finish. Obviously, goes through the legs. No chance for Alisson. But both of them were absolutely petrified of Haaland. Now, I can kind of understand it. But if you want to be a top-class defender, they got absolutely bullied yesterday by Haaland. And that is why Norway are going to be dangerous. Don't care what people say. They might have some bang average players, Sandy Berger from Fulham, etc. Got Ajar or AI from newspaper Celtic, didn't he?
Yeah. He plays for Brentford.
Brentford. I thought he played for Celtic. I don't know. Anyway, but when you got Erling Haaland, who can score goals from absolutely nowhere, you're always in the game.
You mean anywhere?
Anywhere, nowhere, but whatever. You're in the game. You've always got a chance.
He's a brilliant, brilliant striker. And it feels at times he wasted at Man City a little bit in that he doesn't get to show his full repertoire. But I thought that first goal was interesting, just to see his movement. Yes, it wasn't great from Gabriel, but his movement, anticipation, power, he's an absolute nightmare to play against. And honestly, it wasn't just the goals where Gabriel was struggling. It was, he was made to look silly, as you say, numerous times before that. And, maybe it's performances like this, James, from Gabriel, that maybe that's why Arsenal are interested in Ezri Konsa.
Crumbs. So that Asia did play for Celtic. I was right for 5 years, 2016 to 2021. I've just checked up there. So I did recognise him previously, playing before Brentford for Celtic. Then he went on loan to Kilmarnock randomly. But anyway, yeah. And then Neymar.
But is he not just absolutely sum up that Brazilian team?
100%.
And you remember, by the way, where's Pedro? Like players of like proper, like he's a proper player. Pedro is. No, no, thanks. We don't. We obviously don't need your, work rate and everything else.
They brought Neymar on and they actually made themselves worse. And his antics at the end of the game before the penalty, when he was trying to get Odegaard sent off and thinking, I'm Neymar, you've done nothing in your career, mate. You're going to be like all-time Brazilian top goal scorer, but you're stat peddling against garbage kind of thing. And then the penalty at the end just summed up Brazilian football at the moment, trying to give it all the big knees to the Norway goalkeeper when the game's essentially done. Yes, he scores and he celebrates kind of thing. And then the game was done then, by the way. Why there was another minute and a half played on was extremely dodgy.
It was a joke.
Right.
Just one player I do want to mention, goalkeeper Norway, Nyland. He used to be at Villa. Bang average at Villa. He did very well last night. And I think it does show you, particularly with goalkeepers, it tends to happen more than other positions. But you can get these keepers who are sort of middling, not mediocre, but who suddenly find a second wind elsewhere. I'd never have believed Nyland would be playing against Brazil in the World Cup and winning games. But fair play to him. He had a really good game yesterday. So if you don't know, James, he was Villa's goalkeeper when they had that goal against Sheffield United that should have counted. The goal line technology one. He was Villa's goalkeeper there, where he'd sort of carried the ball into the goal, and made a really poor effort to keep the ball out. But yeah, so it was interesting to see how he got on last night, and he did brilliant.
Kept you up from going down, didn't they? How do you think the game Norway will go against England Saturday night? Just looking at the betting there, England are even money on the exchanges. Norway 3-1, draws 5-2 there. 90 minutes.
I think the interesting thing for me would be is that there's no way Norway have dominate possession in the way that they did in this game. Obviously it's in Miami. It's going to be hot, I think, humid. I just don't see England. I don't see Norway dominating possession like they did in that game. I think it'd be a much more even contest. Honestly, I think England are a better team. I mean, there's no getting. There's just no getting away from it. If England turn up and actually, are able to, control Haaland to a certain extent, then I think they win that game.
Yeah, it's just Haaland again, isn't it? It just I do worry a little bit about Conte against Haaland kind of thing, and Mark Gay. They're both small centre backs, only 6'1" at a push kind of thing. Stones clearly can't play the 90 or 100 minutes you now need to play because of hydration breaks and VAR checks and whatever it is. And then they've got the issue at right back again because unless somehow we get Quansah off the red card, Reece James, even if he's fit, could probably only play about half an hour kind of thing. And there's rumours that he's going to be out for the whole tournament anyway. So,
all right,
Jed Spence isn't a right back. I think he's better on the left-hand side kind of thing. So, yeah, it's a big decision who you play right back there on Saturday night.
Thinking out loud, okay, could you envisage a scenario where England actually play 3 at the back and you bring in someone like Dan Burn to try and compete with Haaland physically?
That's a massive call to change shape.
I know.
I suppose you have got on the left-hand side, you then could actually play Jed Spence as a left wing back. I think he's probably suited better than Nick O'Reilly. And randomly, I don't think whatever. Right wing back, I'd have an issue because there isn't anyone who really, bar Reece James in the squad, is there thinking top of the head he can play that right wing back role. I get it.
I don't know.
I think about it.
Because obviously,
I think about it because
once you take Haaland out, if you can take Haaland out of it. So, I mean, I always think about other sports, like if you're willing to double team a player, so maybe double team a wide receiver or, if you are willing to double team and literally take Haaland out of the game, I don't see anything else in that Norwegian team that really worries you.
I think I said to you last night before the Mexico game, there's no Mexico players who are getting the England first 11. And are you swapping Haaland for Kane? People say you paid them both together. We're not. You're paying 4-2-3-1. You're paying one up front.
I'll take Haaland, thanks. He's a more complete striker in my eyes. He actually
It's
has
a tough one, but yeah, it's a tough one. But apart from that, Odegaard's not getting ahead of Bellingham. Just not easy. I mean, it's just levels between those two players. And there's no one else really. There's not. So I know football isn't played on paper, but you get into a World Cup quarter-final, England, and you're not worried about anyone else bar one player. But that one player obviously can win you a game on his own.
So that's why I was wondering if, maybe
you might counteract,
something drastic and, make a special point of trying to take him out of the game. Yeah, as you say, easier said than done.
They could just play him and they could move Konsa to the right if he wanted to and play Gay off to right centre-back and play Dan Burn, left centre-back, and still keep the four at the back. Rather than going to the back three, could go that way. Or you could play Dan Burn left-back, but then Haaland won't go near him, that's the problem. Yeah, they might think about it. But as I said earlier, I think Dan Burn, when he came on, looked a little bit nervous, couldn't get up to speed with the game. But once he grew into the game and they started knocking the balls in, made a couple of really good headers, a couple of good blocks as well. When the overhead kick from Jimenez, he blocked it. And we've seen that from Newcastle as well. He is a limited player, but he will do everything for that team. And he is a danger at set pieces as well. And England are a big side. They've got some big players, England. You look at Kane, Bellingham, apart from centre-back, but Nico Riley's a tall lad. Quantz obviously can't play unless we can get away with it kind of thing. England are not a small side. Declan Rice isn't small. Elliot Anderson's not that small. You know what I mean? They're big lumps, England.
Just quickly, I thought Rice did well yesterday after getting booked within a minute. I mean,
that was a shambles of a decision.
Absolute nightmare situation, really. That is. Honestly, when that happened,
he was fantastic.
Okay, let's talk about some of the other stories we've seen from the World Cup. We obviously have the whole situation with Balogun and his red card, Trump getting involved with phone calls to Infantino. He looks like he's going to be able to play against Belgium in the later game tonight. It goes against everything we've seen in terms of what red cards are about, in terms of, you can question whether you thought it was a red card or not at the time, but, you can't just be making this stuff up like they are. I mean, it's just an absolute joke.
I think Belgium, their statement yesterday was quite well thought of and put out in terms of we're not just fighting for Belgium, we're fighting for football in itself kind of thing. And I believe they're taking it to court of arbitration this morning as well here to basically say, I mean, they can't not turn up Belgium, but if he's allowed to play tonight, it just puts the whole thing into absolute disarray kind of thing. It makes a complete mockery of the whole situation. But do FIFA care?
No. We've seen time and time again that they are openly corrupt in terms of the way that, venues are picked in terms of World Cup and all these other things, and they don't care. I mean, look, we've seen from even certain referees that I would worry for Belgium tonight in terms of decisions, in terms of, it feels like, you remember when the World Cup was in South Korea and they got all sorts of decisions to help them get to the semi-finals. You feel like something similar could be in the works for USA tonight, because you could easily see them get every marginal decision, all sorts going on in their favour.
So we've seen the referees though. The game referee last night, Mexico, England, the referee gave every decision basically to them was in reason kind of thing. Influenced obviously by the crowd and whoever.
The Paraguay.
Come on. The Paraguay France game. I mean, I want to check that guy's cryptocurrency accounts, because that is one of the worst performances by a referee I think I've ever seen. We've been very critical here on referees, especially Mike Oliver wasn't great early in the day either kind of thing on Saturday for the other game. Was it the Switzerland? Not the Switzerland game. Can't remember the game Saturday after. Yeah,
Argentinian game?
No, it wasn't. The Saturday afternoon Canada-Morocco game he was bad in, wasn't it?
No, that was it. Canada-Morocco, yes.
But
he got card happy early, and then it came back to bite him a little bit.
He made six yellow cards in the first half. But this referee on Saturday evening didn't book one Paraguay player at all. Paraguay just wanted to time waste, kick people, argue, try and get French players booked, sent off. He booked Bradley Barcola in the first half, and Barcola didn't even touch the lad. Ran, and it was nothing short of disgraceful from Paraguay. And the penalty, by the way, on Dure, he's one unbelievable player. What a talent he is. Sensational. The referee's looking straight at it, by the way. This is the worst thing he's done all game. He's less than 5 yards away from it. It's a clear penalty, and he just ignores it. I was so surprised he actually changed it, because could quite easily see it's not given as like not clear and obvious kind of thing. And then I know, but the way he was refereeing the game was unbelievable.
Well,
And
it had to be taken out of his hands, right?
yeah, but he could have gone against VAR and said, no, actually, I don't think it's clear and obvious. I know you've been stupid, but the way he refereed that game,
He didn't care.
I like conspiracy theorists and things like this, but I would be wouldn't be surprised if a couple of cryptocurrencies were in his bank account at some point in the future. And then the bloke, why isn't that player sent off, by the way, for kicking a penalty spot? VAR should have looked at that, should have been sent off for that. And Mbappe sticks it away, great penalty. The best thing about that game was not the French go through, was that the French refused to shake the Paraguayan players' hands after the game, and that was brilliant from France. Why should you shake someone's hand when he just tried to kick lumps out of you all game? You've got every decision. You tried to cheat your way through. Get out of here. Like, fair play to Mbappe and co. For a change.
I thought it was interesting because it almost was a throwback to, proper football from 30 years ago when, before you had VAR and, you used to see these hometown officials and, that was how it used to be. And I don't think that's some of the younger generations now just won't realize how bad and like how homer friendly some of the referees were. It has to be seen to be believed, but it added an interesting wrinkle to a pretty interesting World Cup. Obviously, one of the big stories of the round and big stories of the World Cup was obviously Cape Verde, who gave Argentina all they could handle before just coming up short in extra time. It's a real shame. I quite wanted that to go to penalties actually, just to see Martinez, work his magic in the penalty shootout.
I might come back to haunt Argentina just having to go that extra game when they didn't need to, especially Messi playing 120 minutes in that heat kind of thing. I know he doesn't do much running, but still, that would have been, well, it is a massive story, as you say, getting extra time, only losing 3-2 on an own goal, unfortunately. But yeah, penalties would have been great fun to watch.
Well, I think the bigger problem for Argentina is, that had a really easy group stage, and I think everyone was bigging them up as being an incredible team. And I think that was just a bit of a reality check that they are genuinely not in the same stratosphere as a team like France.
Yeah, I mean, they have won 3 tournaments in a row, haven't they? And they play Egypt tomorrow evening at 5 o'clock UK time. And talking of the Egypt game, what is Australia doing? What are Australia doing, Tony Popovich, taking off your goalkeeper with 2 minutes to go of extra time, bringing on Matt Ryan, the old Brighton, Arsenal keeper, for penalties, and then he doesn't get anywhere near any penalty. And the lad who was playing had an absolute worldie.
He was brilliant. And he's a big, massive lad as well. That's where it gets really weird. But what's interesting is Matt Ryan's had that done to him before, so he's been pulled very late on for penalties. So obviously, when these things don't work out, you look a bit of a clown, and if they had worked out, then everyone would have said you're a genius. But Egypt, they didn't look anything special at all. They looked very ordinary, as did Morocco, actually. Morocco, I think, were really quite fortunate to beat Canada 3-0. It was all Canada that first half. Canada were wasteful. And, Morocco, I think they had one touch in the box in that first half. And, they scored it early on in the second half and they were able to pick Canada off on the break a little bit. but that was not the Morocco who we've seen at other times in the tournament. I don't know. Makes you wonder which Morocco are going to turn up, to be honest. They
Was it
play
that
France
slightly
next.
Morocco took Canada lightly and went, you know what, we can kind of save our legs here, kind of thing. We know we're better than them. We're going to get chances.
I don't know about
And essentially,
lightly. I think they paced themselves a lot better than, obviously Canada came flying out the blocks, and I feel like they burnt themselves out a little bit in that first half, and they had to score in that first half, really. And it looked a bit leggy in that second half. So I do think there's an element of Morocco doing a much better job at pacing themselves in that particular game.
yeah, I do agree. It was just but again, it's tournament football, isn't it? You can't play well every game kind of thing. And they're through and they play France on Thursday night at 9 o'clock UK time. So that'll be a fun game, actually, because we know that Morocco, they won't be scared of France at all like this. And you obviously still got Hakimi, he can play up against Mbappe off that left-hand side, and Dure, or I'd imagine Dure will start ahead of Barcola. Yeah, it'll be a fun game Thursday night to watch.
And then, so just last game, probably to have a quick chat about is the earlier game tonight. We've got Portugal, Spain. Um, it's going to be fascinating to watch just from a tactical point of view, because I can imagine it being not a dull game to watch, but I can imagine technically being a very interesting game. That you've got so many good technical players on the pitch, but I could also imagine it being quite a dull game.
I thought the same, and then I've just actually looked at the betting odds for 0-0. I was expecting it to be a lot shorter than what it is. It's currently 14-1 kind of thing for 0-0. Exactly. I thought it'd be cagey. Both teams happy. Spain will be happy with the ball. Portugal probably give Spain the ball, considering they've got 10 men every game. They've got a statue up front.
I'll tell you what, I would much sooner be on the unders in that game than the overs. The unders, under 2.5, 2.12. I don't know. I just think it'd be a really cagey game.
Tend to
Not
agree.
neither team has a striker, do they?
Well, Azerbaijan's record is unbelievable. It's got 12 in the last 10 international goals. I know he's not a big name, not a superstar, but he's in the right place at the right time. Doesn't go outside that penalty area, 6-yard box kind of thing. And when you've got, I mean,
Yeah, but
Yamal hasn't fired yet at all tournament, has he really? And the lad on the left-hand side is just not top class at all. He's just not. They're missing Nico Williams there. He's clearly not fit. If they had him, no, Spain would be a real threat. I know they're third favourite.
I mean, let's go back to Yamal in that obviously he wasn't fit to start this tournament. And we always say it, and it's the same whether it be the Premier League season, whether it be the World Cup, is if you're not fit coming into these tournaments, it's so rare you see a player suddenly come back to fitness and perform at the level that they were at. It is so difficult. And you just don't. And it's what I was saying earlier in the season when we were talking about Premier League, about all Tottenham's injuries and these sorts of things, is players can't be out for weeks and weeks or months and then return, and you expect them to be performing at the level they were before the injury. And I think that's what you're seeing with Yamal a little bit, is that it's just a little bit off the pace, and it takes time. He's lucky he might have a little bit of time to get there, but he's not there at the moment.
Yeah, it'd be fun to watch him against Nuno Mendes tonight.
So
But you can't just beat him for pace. You can't just do, you're going to knock it past him or try and beat him. Yeah, Yamal has got that burst of pace, but it's a hamstring injury. It's quite a serious hamstring injury. And as you said, you can't just turn it on and get back to full sharpness straight away. It just doesn't happen. As you said, it's a build-up of game time and things to this. And Spain have been invited. They were good last time out. They were mighty impressive. They didn't concede any chances really until the game was over. No, I think the XG against them was like 0.01 or something stupid like this for a long time kind of thing. So they forgotten who they play. It's been that many games, and they will control it. But yes, I just don't rate Portugal. One, because they got statue up front, and two, they got Roberto Martinez in charge. So talking of Belgium, actually, USA, obviously you took them briefly earlier. How lucky were they against Senegal? Oh my days. Like, Senegal was 2-0 up and completely bottled it. And talking of bottle, we're talking about big bottle with Bellingham and Kane. Yuri Tielemans' penalty the other day. pick that one out. Top corner, no problem. No worries about pressure. I'll put that in the top bins. See you later. We'll go on to this
The irony being
the
is we've
last
seen him.
16.
The irony being, right, so Villa haven't got a penalty. Obviously, Villa didn't get a penalty all season, so we don't know who would take penalties, right? But
Fired up violin.
um, but what's interesting, so Watkins is horrendous at penalties, and Villa have had all sorts of different penalty takers. But I have seen Tielemans take one for Villa and miss and saved, and it was really costly actually. And I was intrigued to see how he would have done with it, because obviously I have seen him miss. Last one he's taken for Villa, and it wasn't a great penalty. It was saved. But I mean, honestly, fair play to them for pulling that one out of the fire.
Especially when they took Doku off after 50 odd minutes. And I mean, De Bruyne looks, again, he had a bad injury for Napoli in the season and he just looks a shadow of the player. I know he's old, 34, but can't even run. He's got no build up, no fitness behind him to play. But taking Doku off was wild. And then get back. I wonder if he plays tonight, Doku. You should expect him to play. He's much better off the left, by the way, Doku, than on the right. A lot better off the left.
Well, he plays off the left for City. I mean, he never,
Yeah.
But I think nevertheless, it's going to be an interesting game against Portugal. Some properly high quality midfielders on show there tonight as well. And that's why I wonder if they just cancel each other out a little bit. But we will see. But obviously, I think it's been a pretty good World Cup, all said and done. I know it's been difficult for people in terms of the hours and everything else, but as we get into these knockout stages, there's a lot of very interesting games now and to come.
Yeah, I think because there was lack of jeopardy in the group stages, because he could finish third, essentially like that. Especially from my point of view, I was like, yes, watching them, but not really enjoying them as per se, because it doesn't matter if you lose, like Spain, Cape Verde, first game, everyone's like, oh, 0-0. But like, it didn't really matter kind of thing. And Norway, obviously, France, they threw the game as well, 2-0, because they wanted to go the other way. And it's been proven to be right, probably. But now it's knockout football. And I think because it's the World Cup and it's every 4 years, and it's the biggest sporting event every 4 years, it's bar none. It's not like the World Series or the baseball, or the World Series baseball, sorry, the Super Bowl, for example, or the FA Cup final, Champions League final, when it's every year kind of thing. This is every 4 years, so it means something. Some of these players might never play in the World Cup again, or they might, things like this. So it's a big thing, and everyone watches it. You see these scenes last night with Mexico, like 1 million people on the streets in Mexico City last night. Everyone's watching it. Everyone's talking about it. So that's why I think it means so much to people. It only happens every 4 years, and it is so big nowadays.
I think you also have this interesting situation where you do have. It's going to be a bit of a swan song for some of the biggest players, certainly of the generation that we've seen. So obviously, I'd be amazed if Messi plays another one. Ronaldo, obviously, your Modric's of the world, Salah, all these guys. They're all.
Kane won't be around at 36, no chance.
So there's lots of De Bruyne, who you touched on. Lots and lots of very, very high quality players who just aren't quite the same players as they were at the moment. And it was interesting you said about Messi's legs in terms of running in overtime. I mean, if you watch Messi, it's difficult to comprehend how little he actually moves when you watch him.
Yeah, he just doesn't at all. Until he bursts into pace and he doesn't do anything for 10, 15 minutes, and then he just wanders around.
He literally just stands there.
Yeah, and gets everyone else to do his dog work for him. I'm surprised, by the way, with Argentina, they don't start Julian Alvarez. I mean, they're paying Lisandro Martinez, Latuaro Martinez, not Lisandro Martinez, obviously plays centre-back. Julian Alvarez is a different level to him, and him up front with, but I suppose because he kind of plays that 9.5 role that Messi's kind of playing, so he doesn't really go down the channels. Not a bad player to bring on with half an hour to go.
Well, I mean, there is also that aspect. So, particularly with Argentina, I'm always left feeling that it's not just a case of bringing him on for half an hour. there's a pretty good chance you'll be bringing him on for an hour because you also have the extra time. Um, but I think all said and done, it's been fascinating World Cup so far. It's only going to get better. England, England's route to the final, James, is very doable. Norway and then maybe Argentina. It's I think the word you're looking for, James, is it's coming home.
Hope that kills you, isn't it?
You
It's
know,
the hope that look, absolutely. Like, if you said to us the day before, the day of the World Cup, you play Norway in the quarterfinals of the World Cup, you'd bite your hands off it. You go, absolutely. In Miami, everyone barring the right back fully fit. Well, we kind of knew that was going to happen anyway because, well, don't take a right back who can stay fit. But anyway, and then you play Argentina. Just said, yeah, they have won the World Cup and back-to-back Copa Americas, but they haven't really done anything. As you said, they've not played anyone yet either. And they're not going to play anyone, kind of thing. You kind of, yeah, you could get to a World Cup final and you've played Argentina. You played one of the big boys. And then in the final, yeah, you might have to play France or Spain. But it's a final. Anything can happen. You could have a red card after 5-10 minutes, and Mbappe could have,
just
or
take
Neymar
your
could get injured.
chances. You have just take
Exactly.
chances.
We're seeing in finals all the time. Happens not just in football. Happens in every sport. Pressure does funny things to people. Opportunity or thing during the game where you wouldn't expect them to do it. And England have two generational footballers, in Harry Kane and Jude Bellingham. And once those two, and they're both playing really well, and once those two are playing well and they play well together, they are a handful. And other teams and other defenders will be scared of them. Other coaches, national coaches will be going, we need to stop Kane and Bellingham. Now, if you do, then you beat us. Good luck trying to, especially Bellingham after last night. I can't get my head around how good a performance that was. And I spoke to you about earlier, but the more and more I think about it, it was just like it's arguably England's one of top three ever kind of thing. In my lifetime, there's not been a better performance, I don't think. I know you can talk about Owen in the World Cup in 98 and things like that, relied on that goal kind of thing. I'm struggling to think in the World Cup. Obviously, Euros 96 against Holland or the Netherlands at Wembley when they won 4-1. But a single performance last night by Bellingham, it's outrageous.
Okay, enough World Cup, I suspect. Should we have a quick chat on a couple of bits of more domestic news? So it looks like Fulham are still waiting for work permit to appoint Arbeloa. We had the interesting news this week, James, of Pereira leaving Forest, Glasner coming in at Forest. This was very left field. I think it was widely expected that Glasner was looking for a bigger job than Nottingham Forest. Clearly, the market wasn't there for him in the way that he expected. I'm led to believe that Marinakis is throwing a lot of money his way, and it's going to be interesting to see how he does.
So it's just been confirmed as 10 o'clock this morning as the new Nottingham Forest head coach. Yeah, head coach, the new say now, unless you're Chelsea and Alonso manager. It's an odd move, very odd move for Glasner himself. Like going from Palace, who are in the Europa League next season, obviously winning the Conference League. It's almost going sideways-ish. You could argue he's going downwards. I know, like Forest are a bigger club than Palace, obviously. But it may be that he has been promised, as you say, a bundle of cash. I mean, they're also going to get serious money from Anderson from City. Obviously, they've got that money in the bank. But trying to attract players to Nottingham Forest, they need a new striker because Chris Wood is 34, 35. Got to sort out the keeper situation. Got to go and buy some midfielders. They're not in Europe. They play 4-2-3-1. He plays three at the back. That squad isn't really suited for a three at the back. He's got to go in there. These players haven't played four at the back for a while. No, these players, I know Murillo can play that kind of thing, but it is a big change when you've been playing that many managers that have had over the last 12 months. You look at it, Nuno and Pereira kind of thing, all played four at the back. And suddenly you've got a manager coming in to play three at the back. Your whole transfer strategy has to be buying players who can play that system. It's quite a system you need players to play. You can't just go, we're going to swap now, because Glasner doesn't play any other way. He plays 3-4-3 or he plays 3-5-2, but it is three at the back.
I wonder if he might go and try and steal one of those fullbacks from Palace, either Munoz or Mitchell. Because, as you say, I mean, Forest obviously play Williams and Aina as their fullbacks at the moment, and I wouldn't necessarily say they're ideally suited to be wing backs. I'm not saying they can't play the role. And by the way, I think they probably have enough centre backs. One more centre back, and they'll be okay. I think from a centre back perspective. But I always think with Glasner's system it's a lot of it's that those fullback roles, and you know, I just wonder if you Mitchell or Munoz, because they are decent wing backs, is whether Forest can get one of those out of Palace. Obviously, Palace would be very reluctant to sell to Forest, but money talks.
Money does talk.
And
As,
also,
as
and
Spurs
also
have
if
found out.
and also if one of the players actually wants to leave, because they've been at Palace a while now. Maybe they want a new challenge. So I think that'd be something to keep an eye on. I wonder if also if he would, someone like Sangaer can play in the middle, but I wonder, obviously Anderson would have been ideal for them in that central midfield role. I just wonder if could you see them try and get a Wharton or something like that? I don't know. Would he want to go there? I don't know. You wouldn't think so, but the problem is if no one else is willing to stump up the money, maybe Forest will. I don't know. I mean, it's interesting, but it's just a weird move by Glasner. I mean, there's no getting away from it. And you also have to feel a little bit for Pereira because he obviously kept them up, did a pretty reasonable job with it. And the story I heard in terms of how he was sacked or let go. So I don't know if you heard this, but there was a clause in his contract that said there's a certain cut-off time, say midnight. I think it was the 30th of June. And
Wow.
both
Haven't heard this.
parties could let the other one know by that time. And then Forest sent him an email 2 minutes before the end of that time or something saying they weren't keeping him. I mean, it's just pathetic. But Glasner also has to appreciate that he's walking into the Lions' den with Marinakis.
Absolutely. That's shocking by Marinakis. That's absolutely pathetic
Are you
management for that
surprised? Are
team.
you surprised?
No, absolutely not. But I'm surprised that Glasner's actually gone into Forest. Clearly, money talks. He's been paid a bucket load. I wouldn't be surprised if he's on £10 million plus their minimum kind of going there.
Maybe he
Why else
views
is
it.
he going there?
Well, maybe he views it as a chance to actually cash in properly, and then if it doesn't work at Forest, he can go somewhere else anyway because his stock will still be high.
Just an odd move, or well, it's not an odd move for Forest. You're getting a proven manager, but for Glasner himself, it just seems very strange and odd for him.
So in terms of, we've seen a little bit of transfer action. So Everton have been quite busy. It looks like they've signed Hackney. It's going to be fascinating to see how he does in the Premier League. I mean, obviously he's been on the radar, or in terms of Championship players, at Middlesbrough for a long time. I remember even when we signed Rodgers from them, there was a lot of talk about Hackney back then. And it'd be interesting to see how he does at Everton. I'm intrigued to see where he actually plays in terms of who he plays instead of. Um, it's just interesting to see. I see they also completed a deal for Tyreek George from Chelsea on a permanent deal. He was on loan there at the back end of since January last year. So Everton have made that deal permanent. Not a crazy fee, I don't think, based on I think what Chelsea would have been looking for at one point. But I think Chelsea are just desperate to bring in cash, in terms of all the financial fair play stuff.
Where does that leave Jack Grealish?
Well, he's at Manchester City where he's a player, James.
He's desperate to go back to Everton, isn't he? Yeah, I haven't seen enough of Tyreek George, but I think it was £18 million. And if he's, as you say, in last summer or January, they were wanting 30, 40, £50 million for him, weren't they?
Yep.
Good luck. But you said it to your blue in the face kind of thing, no pun intended. But Chelsea need to get rid of an awful lot of players. And it seems like they're just trying to get rid of them. Well, this one especially, get rid of them on not on the cheap, but they need him off the books. I mean, they signed Palestri, the Italian right back, over the weekend on a 7-year contract. How are they getting away with that still? But where does that leave Gusto? I mean, we said £75 million, forget about it. Like, put a dot in the middle of it, 7.5, and we'll start talking. He is better than that, obviously, but you're talking £30 million tops for him. Reece James, I mean, one of the worst contract decisions I think you can imagine. 6-year contract, 300 grand a week for a player that plays 20 games a season. And other ones are like Nathan Ake's left Man City. He's gone to Turkey, hasn't he, for £7 million or whatever it is. Trossard has left Arsenal for £17 million. That's an awful lot of money for Arsenal for a
It says
31-year-old.
I haven't verified this, but I was told it was the second highest amount they've received for a transfer fee, but I can't believe that's right.
Do you know who their record sale is? Arsenal's?
Oxlade.
Oxlade-Chamberlain in, was it 2017 to Liverpool for 35 million?
So I don't think it can be right. I'm sure Iwobi went anyway. I think they're going to miss Trossard because Trossard he's quite effective. He's quietly effective, or has been for Arteta, in terms of it's a troublesome position. He never strikes me as the most demanding. So if he's not playing every game, he's quite understanding. He chips in some important goals. You're not getting huge amounts of money for him. I think it's the sort of thing where obviously Arsenal are desperate to bring in some money, refresh the squad a little bit, and particularly on that left-hand side. But I just think that, I don't know, I think Trossard was quite a useful player for Arsenal and Arteta, and I think there's a potential that he might be missed.
They're desperate to buy a left winger, whether it's a Morgan Rogers or a Barcola, but stump up the money. It's going to cost you 120, 130 million pound, lads, and 300 grand a week. So 200 million pound transfer for 5 years. So they haven't got that sort of money yet. They need to sell players. But Eze, they spent 65 million pound on, can play on the left-hand side if he wants to. But it's a good sale for Arsenal in terms of money, in terms of 17 million pounds, because they clearly want.
Is it in this? Look,
what is it? Is he 31, 32 kind of thing? I know he's only signed a new contract, didn't he, last summer as well. They just want a left winger, don't they, or someone who can play there. He is, how old is he? He's 31. He's 32 in December of this year. So
but so it's a sort of transfer where I'm not saying everyone loses out, but I don't know. I don't sense £15 million or £20 million as a massive game changer for Arsenal, given how much money they've spent in recent years. But maybe it was just a situation where they are going to bring someone in on the left. As you say, you have got Eze there, you've got Martinelli. So, Martinelli was the one they really wanted to shift, I think, for reasonable money. So I
but
just don't think
Namwari could play there, Downman could play there. You know what I mean? They have got, if they don't buy anyone, they have got players who can play there, per se. Can we just talk about Newcastle briefly before we jump off everything we've probably talked a lot? It's quite funny, isn't it?
Which aspect, James? Which aspect?
Like, falling apart? Obviously, Tonali's gone to Spurs. It's a great signing for Spurs. It really is. I know they've paid a lot of money for him, way over market value for his wages. But if you want a player and Spurs have put money in, they're getting a lot of money from revenue elsewhere, like NFL games, etc. Fair play. Put the money on the table, and if there's the asking price and you pay it, fair play to Spurs. They put the money on the table. They also bought Fernandes as well, 24 hours earlier.
Well, let's just touch on Tonali quickly, right? Look at it from Tonali's point of view. Okay, what is he doing? I mean, honestly, you're swapping. I'm not saying they're a similar club. I mean, Tottenham are in a stage where they're a bigger club than Newcastle are at the moment. Okay, but you're a player who has aspirations of playing Champions League football, contending to win things, right? And you're basically sacrificing your peak years to go to Tottenham Hotspur, coming off back-to-back 17th place finishes. Now, Tottenham might might have a great season and finish 4th or 5th, right? Tonali was looking at joining a club who are finishing, higher than that. And I think, are these players just so greedy that it's just about them, literally just about, an extra 50,000 or an extra £100,000 on the salary? Yes, it might be a situation where no teams wanted to pay what Tottenham were willing to offer him, but there is some element of player power, because if Tonali turns around and says, I want out, it's very difficult for Newcastle to keep him there at Newcastle, particularly if, let's say, for example, Arsenal had offered £85 million instead of 100 million. Okay, so something that's a very reasonable offer. If you're Tonali and you wanted to go to Arsenal, you can make that happen. Newcastle aren't going to just keep rejecting bids of, make him go to Tottenham. You can't force a player to go and join Tottenham. They'd be left in that situation, a bit like Isak, where the transfer would be going on and on and on all summer and everything else.
I think, yeah, it's a strange move from Tonali in terms of they ain't going to win anything at Tottenham. Like, he's not going to be in Champions League next season.
He could be in the Champions League next season, right?
No, but they've got one. So he's
Not
26.
this season.
He's got
next season.
not this season. So he's got 1 year that he's not going to be in it. They could be it if they get top 5 kind of thing, but they're not obviously favourites to finish in a top 5 kind of thing. So that could be 2 years out of it. So then you're, as you say, in your prime. It could also be, I know it's we've talked about it before, doesn't want to live in Newcastle anymore. Family doesn't want to live in Newcastle anymore.
No, but
300 grand a week, probably massive bonuses. But yeah, if these footballers they are interested in money. We've seen that when players, they just are. Whether that's right or wrong, look at the players that go to Saudi. They're only going there for cash. Like, let's be honest.
no,
I
but
know
that's, that's proper life-changing cash.
300 grand a week's proper life change. He's probably trebled his wages from Newcastle.
Yeah, but he would have been able to
Probably
get, no, but the point is, right, so let's say he went to,
He could have gone to
an
Arsenal on
right?
300 grand. Yeah.
Arsenal would have got, let's say they didn't pay 300, they paid 250. I'm sorry, there's no conceivable difference at that level between 250 and 300 to be at a team who's actually contending for things.
But maybe the Arsenal don't.
No, but I find it weird that also, right, if he's that special, why are none of the other big teams, everyone knew who's available, come in for him? Because you've got teams like Man United who have got a massive hole in that central midfield area.
Probably because they didn't want to pay the asking price.
It can't be that special then, can he?
Yeah, I mean, the midfield market for prices is a joke. Like, we know that Mateus Fernandes isn't worth 85 million. We know that Elliot Anderson isn't worth 116 million. But when Declan Rice went 3 years ago to Arsenal, whenever it was 2 years, for 105 million, and Enzo Fernandez went for that price, and Caicedo went for that price kind of thing, if you're a selling club, you're like going, well, that's the market value, and people are paying it. Well, one club's paid, haven't they? He's paid, shelled out 185 million. I think it's a great signing. Going back to the player, forget what it was, it is a good signing for Tottenham. It is a good signing. They look like they're putting their money down, and like, let's talk about them wanting Tuna Krupa as well from Bournemouth as well. But how many players do they need, Tottenham? I know Dragusin's gone on loan, I see this morning, to Fiorentina on loan. So I'd imagine they're paying a percentage of his wages, if not all of them. So there's one centre-back. So now need to get rid of another couple.
Well, the problem with that is that's just on loan, right? So there's a whole series of, like, it could be worth up to 20 million euros. There is not a chance on this planet that an Italian team is paying 20 million pounds for Dragusin. We see it all the time with them. They take him on. Basically, it's just a glorified loan where Tottenham are just desperate to get him off the books. Because, as you say, Tottenham have got way, way too many players. And you're going to see a whole series of other pretty poor deals, I suspect, for Tottenham in terms of players going out, because they have to trim the squad. They have way too big a squad now.
A massive squad with no European football. It could end up, they've only got really 38 game season kind of thing. FA Cup and League Cup, whatever. FA Cup doesn't start till January, so League Cup, they'll play, but that's one game every 6 weeks kind of thing.
One note of caution I would say, in terms of it being a great deal for Tottenham, right? I think it's impressive when you can actually get the top quality players. Okay. and they are willing to put the money where the mouths are, and they've perhaps not done that, particularly with wages. But I do think you're in danger of setting quite an interesting precedent in terms of things like wages. So when you start paying players like Tonali 275, 300,000 a week, what it does is it completely shatters the wage structure at a club. So I don't know what's going to happen with the likes of Van der Ven and Romero and these types of players, but they're going to see someone like Tonali on that money, and you know what? They want to get paid that type of money. Obviously, there's a good chance Romero will move on. You're going to have Van Hecke is going to be on big money. Senesi on a free transfer, he'll be on big money. Fernandez will be on big money. And what you see very
Robertson.
quickly, Robert, you
Robertson.
know, they brought in obviously Simons last year. He'll have been on big money when he came. And what you see quite quickly is, Tottenham had this amazing wage to revenue ratio of somewhere between, say, 40 and 50%. And it was the best in the league. But I tell you what, right? You suddenly add £1.5 million worth of wages, £2 million a week's worth of wages onto your wage bill. That's suddenly £100 million a year in wages. That ratio begins to change very, very quickly, particularly if you're having to give current players bigger deals and things like that. And suddenly you'll find Tottenham's isn't that 45, 50%. Suddenly it'll be at 60%, particularly if they're not playing well. So it's okay if they're performing well, they're making Champions League and stuff. But if they start having seasons again where they're missing out in European football and things like that, is those ratios change alarmingly quickly.
Yeah, it's a big summer for Tottenham. They're going balls in, aren't they? Just quickly back to Newcastle. So interesting where Bruno Guimaraes goes. Obviously, he's just been knocked out, so he's a couple of weeks holiday. Does he go to Arsenal? Does he go to Newcastle? Anyone else interested? So there's a chat this morning, just reading there. Angelo Stiller, the Stuttgart and German midfielder, Bild in Germany reporting that Newcastle want him. And Newcastle obviously bought Toure from Hoffenheim, the young winger, over the weekend, and that's their replacement for Anthony Gordon, who somehow is a Barcelona player. I'm still yet to be convinced. Anyway, that's the transfers.
So obviously we would endeavour to do a podcast after England's next game. I know we were a little bit slack after the Congo game. Part of that was just all sorts of weird and wonderful craziness going on. And also not least the fact that, certainly from my perspective, the World Cup has seen some ridiculously crazy hours, with last night just being the norm, really, rather than the exception in recent weeks. It was interesting to see what a fuss everyone's been making about having to do one night where they're having to watch a football game. Try doing it for a few weeks and come back to me. But yeah, but we will endeavour to do a podcast after we destroy Norway.
Yeah, so that's Saturday night, isn't it? So we'll try and do one on Sunday. In fact, we will try and do one Sunday morning to try and do that, just to talk about it and anything else that goes on. That it's a great few games coming up. As you say, knockout football is brilliant. Hoping for another penalty shootout, because when you're not involved in penalty shootout, they're great to watch.
They are brilliant. I love penalties. But okay, James, anything else?
No, there's obviously a load of sport going on elsewhere that will keep my eye on, things like that. But yeah,
Just
sleep this afternoon.
No, some sleep this afternoon. One transfer I did want to mention just quickly. Actually, I forgot about was Monga. Jeremy Monga's decided to go to Manchester City rather than Arsenal. Arsenal lowballed him. Apparently, City are willing to stump up at least £10 million for him. They're also willing to give him £75,000 a week. Apparently, let's leave on this note, James. Were those 116 charges anytime soon?
I wonder what Maresca's thinking about that as well. Yeah, the new City coach kind of saying 100, whatever it is. I mean, surely that's got to be done by the start of the season. But again, don't hold your breath on that.
But all right, thanks.
It's coming home. It's coming home. See everyone in a week. Bye bye.